storytellers in today's world make a living with their stories? And if there is, what are some other ways that storytellers could make money with their business, with their stories, besides just, trying to pitch a studio or at the larger levels? Or do you have any advice on like what other writers could be doing to sell their stories or make money with their stories?
Well, of course, because of the internet and Amazon in particular, everyone can, publish books that used to have to go through gatekeepers, mostly in New York, to get to that point. And Hollywood is in love with books. So if you're going to try to sell a story to Hollywood, the best possible advice I can give you is to write it as a book first. And in the old days, Hollywood used to insist that it be from a major publisher, but that's all changed in the last 20 years. And I discovered about 10 years ago that I was having a much harder time selling books to New York than I used to. I used to sell 30 or 40 books a year and to all the publishers, but then they were also bought up by the big conglomerates. So every major publisher, of which there used to be about 50, they've now gotten down to about 4. And those 4 have purchased the other 36 imprints and made them part of their big flags, because they're owned by Hachette and Bertelsmann and Penguin Putnam and so on. And as a result, they don't buy new voices the way they used to. They're not interested in unknown writers the way they used to be. So I got upset about that because I didn't have as many books to take to my Hollywood lunches. And I decided about 8 years ago now to start our own imprint, Story Merchant Books, of which we've now published over 300. And I set up a whole bunch of them as series and as movies, because they look like books and they talk like books and they sound like books. And so people go, I got to read this. And I take the book to lunch with me and they go home with it and read it and call me in a few days and say they want to make it into a movie. So any writer can do that. They can put out, go to Amazon and print their books, or they can come to a company that helps them do that, like one of mine does. And that's a huge thing they can do. And of course, they can also edit and help other writers. And a lot of writers make a steady income by doing that. But there are more opportunities, I think, than ever before to make a living as a writer.
And like again, today's world that we have so much opportunity in the streaming space specifically, do you recommend that screenwriters begin to create their own video content, to create a pilot, or create, instead of walking in with just a pitch, to walk in with a sizzle reel or a scene or even a full-blown pilot that they shot, for 15 or 20 grand to, as a proof of concept, or like in, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that's exactly what they did. They shot a pilot and then went off to do, I think, 4 or 5 seasons with that pilot, with the same actors. I think even they just added a few more bigger names. So what do you think?
I think it's a visual medium, and if you know how to do it, then by all means, that's what you should be doing, because that's what we're all looking for. We're looking for movies, for moving pictures. And I have a client who, kind of behind my back, he was a business writer, and I had sold 2 of his business books. And then out of the blue, he told me a couple of years ago, I decided to make a dream of mine come true. I made a movie. And I couldn't believe it, because he seemed like not the complete opposite of a guy who would make a movie, because he was a button-down businessman. But he did make a movie, and I saw it, and now I'm helping him get a distributor for it. And he's also written a brilliant novel. And it took him years to get up the courage to do either one of them. Mm-hmm. But he's done them both, and nothing's stopping you now. I mean, the one thing about the creative world it's free. You're free to think outside the box, and the boxes are not like they used to be. Ever since Jeff Bezos came along, the entire world has changed as much as it did when Gutenberg invented the printing press, or back in the old days when someone invented writing to take over from the oral tradition. We're going through a sea change as big as either one of those, if not bigger. And whereas there used to be maybe 20,000 books published every year in the United States, it's now over 1 million books published every year. And a lot of them are horrible, A lot of them are really bad, but more than ever, a lot of them are good, and a lot of them are better than books that were published before. It's just statistics. A lot of books means a lot of better books too.